My husband and kids abandoned me after catching me cheating. Well, what did you expect them to do? Now let's get into this story. This dates back to May 4th, 2021. This woman starts out and she says, "Please reserve judgment on my situation until you listen to my entire post. I know what I've done is wrong and is 100% my fault. I'm not placing blame on anyone else. I'm just trying to see if there's a way I can save my 19-year marriage or if my relationship with my husband is beyond repair. I'm a 38-year-old female, call me Francine, and my husband, call him Rye, is 44. We got married when I was 19, a month after I gave birth to our daughter, call her Libby. Libby is now 19 years old. Nearly 1 year to the day later, I gave birth to our son, call him Craig. Both kids now attend the same college 5 hours from us. Though we married young, broke, and had a child, Rye and I managed just fine. We had a great life from the start. Rye has a good job now and has always been a great provider, husband, and father. Even in those early days, I also now work 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have plenty of money, own our own home, and have a decent savings. Our family was rock solid, and my husband, kids, and I were an unbreakable team until I fell under the deception of a very dark person. See how she's already painting her app as being this dark and deceptive person. It all started innocently enough. We have a dog, and she's part of the family too. As mentioned before, I work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I'm home on Tuesday and Thursday. I take our dog to the dog park on those days. On the days when I work, Rye comes home on his lunch break and walks our dog, and we both walk her on the weekends. One Tuesday at the park about 3 months ago, I met a man there. I'll call him Leonard, aged 37. Now enter the stage, Leonard, and you know who Leonard's going to be. His dog and our dog became playmates. Leonard mentioned that he had seen me there several times with my dog, but I didn't remember seeing him. Out of coincidence, we started running into each other at the park every time I went. Was it really a coincidence, or were you going there when you knew he would be there? I believed the latter. With each interaction, we talked more and became casual friends. Nothing inappropriate, just shooting the breeze with a fellow dog lover. In fact, at dinner one night, I told my husband about my interaction with this man named Leonard from the dog park and asked if he'd ever seen him there. My husband said no, and I told him that Leonard's dog and our dog are now besties. My husband laughed, and nothing more was said about the subject. Time went on, and then things began to change between Leonard and I. About 2 months ago, one day at the dog park, Leonard and I were talking, and he mentioned that he lived in the luxury apartment complex nearby. The complex is about a quarter mile from the dog park and about a half-mile walk from my house. I told him the apartments looked so nice on the outside and asked him what they were like on the inside. I told him a friend of mine was interested in possibly renting there, which was true at the time. Leonard asked me to walk over to his apartment with my dog and have a quick look and take pictures for my friend. I knew I should have politely refused, but I said okay, of course you did. Once I stepped through the door of his apartment, I knew I had crossed the line of inappropriateness. Leonard showed me around, and I stayed for maybe 10 minutes, thanked him, and then said I needed to get home. With that, he asked if he'd see me next Tuesday at the park. I said yes and left. This was the point where I started cheating on Rye. As when I went home that night, I didn't tell him about my visit to Leonard's apartment. Instead, I was even more attentive to my husband, fixed him a great dinner, and cuddled with him on the couch until we retired to our bedroom. We had a great night. And I put that there is a red flag for this husband because all of a sudden now she's giving you more attention and more love. And on one of these evenings during the week, and you got to kind of think to yourself, okay, why out of the blue is she doing this? Could this be love bombing for something she's done and she's making up for? Yes, that is what the situation is. So you always have to keep your eyes open to that, guys. The following Tuesday, I met Leonard once again at the park, and we talked for nearly 2 hours. At the end of our conversation, I told him we need to back off our friendship as we have gone beyond what is appropriate. He said he knew this, but told me it felt so right and that we had unbelievable chemistry. Here again, I could have pulled back and ended things, but instead, I agreed with him. Things moved quickly from there, and the following Tuesday, I spent the afternoon with Leonard at his apartment, having intimacy. See how quickly it happened, guys. Surprisingly, early that evening, I felt a little guilt or remorse for what I just done. Instead, I felt a high level of desire and passion for my husband, and we had a beautiful night together. That's what I say to that. That is just so sick. She just was with this lover of hers, and you know he wasn't wearing protection. I guarantee it. 99% of the time, these women do not require their lover to wear protection. So that is just sick. It's gross. It's disgusting. And I have nothing more to say about that. And that's also a red flag because again, here she is giving you all this attention and all this love, and out of the blue, as a man, you got to sit back and ask yourself, why out of the blue is she doing this? Writing this out now, I'm just disgusted with myself, as you should be, but I must be truthful. Leonard and I continued meeting at his place every Tuesday and Thursday until midday this past Friday, nearly 2 months to the day when I started the physical relationship with Leonard. So she was having a physical relationship with this Leonard twice a week for 2 months. Let's say at least 15, 16, 17 times she was with this guy. And you know, with a new relationship like that, they're doing everything possible in that bedroom. I should have realized something was not right with my husband as 2 weeks ago. I noticed an abrupt change in his behavior. But I was too caught up in the fog of the affair to notice or even care. I guess it was then my husband started giving me short answers and not engaging with me. He also rejected my requests for intimacy several times and didn't initiate intimacy at all. During this time, he also started working late, not coming home until after 8 o'clock. He'd say he and his coworkers were working on a big presentation and they were all eating takeout at the office. These big projects happened on rare occasions, but not for 2 weeks straight. When I pressed him, he just said it was a top secret project and that it would finish up on Friday. I bought his story and felt relieved that I would soon be getting my loving husband back. He promised to make up the lost time with me and promised we'd have an emotion-filled weekend. Well, let's just say the emotion was not what I expected. When I got home on Friday, there was a large manila envelope taped to the door with my name on it. When I got inside, I opened the envelope and nearly passed out. There were pages and pages of messages between Leonard and I on the fake name Facebook accounts we had created to manage our affair communications. So you see how devious these cheaters are. They created fake Facebook accounts for the sole purpose of being able to message secretly with each other. Again, as I said on other videos, these affairs typically are not just spur-of-the-moment things. They're well thought out and calculated with a lot of planning that goes into them. So don't ever buy the excuse that it was a big mistake I made. No, it was a rationalized, well thought out decision that you made, not a mistake. As I looked through the messages, I started crying and couldn't catch my breath. It was so bad, I contemplated calling 911. Oh, what an actress. I threw the envelope to the floor and started running around the house, unsure who put the envelope on my door. Was it Leonard, my lover? Was it my husband, Rye? Or was it someone else? My question was answered when I went into the bedroom. There, in the middle of the bed, was a white gift box with a big red bow and a card tag on it with my name on the 2 line and my husband's name on the front line. I nervously took the bow off the package and opened the box to find divorce papers. My man really slammed her there with the divorce papers, saying this. I knew my world had imploded, and I just laid on the bed and cried uncontrollably into a pillow. After an hour or so of thinking what to do and what I was going to say to my husband, I called him and he didn't answer. I kept calling, but he didn't pick up. I then texted him, and again, nothing. I started pacing around the house, thinking what I was going to do. I then called and texted my daughter and son multiple times, and they didn't answer, which was strange. A few minutes later, I got a text from my husband saying he knew everything, and so does our children, and the rest of his family. And as of 15 minutes ago, so did my parents. He wrote that he has moved out and signed a lease on an apartment, and that I would next be hearing from his attorney. He ended the text stating, "Enjoy your new life with Leonard." My man zinged her there, and you see what he was doing for those weeks where he was giving her the cold shoulder. He was actually meeting with his attorney, getting everything ready. He was also going out, looking for apartments, apparently, and leased an apartment. This guy was done once he found out his wife was cheating. He basically washed his hands of her. After reading this, I cried for hours, only stopping to answer a call from my mother. Instead of comforting me, she tore into me, not letting me speak a word, and then hung up on me. I kept calling her back, but she didn't pick up. I called my dad, and he answered. I asked to talk to mom, and he said she didn't have anything further to say to me. Now my father then told me he was so disappointed and ashamed of me, saying he never dreamed his daughter could do such a thing. This broke me, and I started crying, telling him I was sorry. He was silent as I blabbed on and on. After I finished, he told me to get myself together and do better. I told him, "Okay, Daddy, I will," and we ended the call. At this point, I was too embarrassed to confide in my friends or another family member, so I just sat alone, crying in my bedroom. I thought I'd better call Leonard, that's her lover, to advise him that our relationship was over and for a comforting shoulder to cry on. When I called him, he first asked why I was calling from my phone and not using our fake Facebook accounts. I came right out and told him, my husband knew about us and he's divorcing me. The only thing Leonard said was, "Oh no, he knows." I told him I didn't know. Leonard asked, "Did he find your Facebook account?" I said he must have. Leonard then said, "Did you sign out? What happened?" I told him I didn't know. He then asked if my husband knew who he was. I told him, yes, as he mentioned you by name in the text I received. Leonard said zero and then just started screaming the F word loudly over and over to the point where his dog started barking. He then said, "Okay, look, I'm sorry this happened, but you were sloppy. Let's cut all contact and delete our accounts and phone numbers. Hopefully you can save your marriage. Don't call me again." I was both surprised and sickened by his coward and just said, "Okay," and we ended the call. Just like that. There was no, "I'm sorry for destroying your marriage, Francine." No, "What can I do for you, Francine?" No, "Thank you." Just self-preservation talk from a shallow man. How could I have been so stupid to cheat on Ray with anyone, let alone a disgusting shell of a man like Leonard? I'm posting this at 3:00 a.m. on Tuesday morning. If that tells you something, I've taken the week off to focus on getting my husband and kids to talk to me so I can apologize and we can heal and move forward. Does anyone have any suggestions for what to do next? My soul is crushed and I'm completely alone. I've lost everything but my dog as a result of my actions. Have any of you who strayed been cut off so quickly by your spouses? Rai is gone and wants nothing to do with me. I understand how bad he feels, but to just cut me out of his life and file for divorce over one stupid mistake seems so extreme. Please help, Francine. So you see two things she's doing here, guys. She's minimizing what she did. She's calling it one stupid mistake and she's placing all the blame on this lover of hers, Leonard, calling him all kinds of names and saying he's a shallow shell of a man type of thing. She's not taking responsibility at all and she's trying to minimize it. Let's look at a few responses that she got from the community. But before we do that, I want to encourage you. If you're liking what you hear, hit that like button. That will help get this video seen by people all over the world. Now let's take a look at some of those responses. The first one's from a woman. She says, "Francine, don't beat yourself up too bad. What you did is instinctive. Not saying it's right, but natural." So she's saying cheating and having multiple men is natural. I too am working through infidelity and thankfully my husband is more understanding than Ray. He's been with me through all the highs and lows. Mr. Simp. She's got a S for a husband. I've been in individual counseling and he and I go to marriage counseling twice a week. I've been a wreck, but my hubby is my rock. Good luck, girl. HM. The second one here is from a male. He says, "Wow, your husband just moved out and is avoiding you without even speaking. Was your marriage on the rocks prior? Have you cheated before, and therefore you knew your fate if you cheated again? Even so, if you were my wife, I'd at least have a discussion to get your side of the story before doing something so final. I think there's more to your story than you are sharing." You know, that's what I thought when I first read this story. I'm thinking she's not telling us the whole story. I'd really like to talk with her husband to find out his side of the story here and what their marriage was really like before he found out she cheated, because I think there's more to this story. The next response is from a woman. She says, "So sad. Sad for you, Francine. Don't wear your infidelity as a scarlet letter." Here's another one of these stories where they're referring to having affairs as a scarlet letter, and that's not something you should have to wear for the rest of your life. Well, as we always say, once a cheater, always a cheater. She says, There's nothing wrong with you. You are only human like the rest of us. Now listen to what she says next. I cheated on my husband back in 1995. We separated for 6 months, and then he came back to me, and we lived a happy life until I lost him last year. I still regret what I did, but I more than made it up to him. Did you really? I'd like to talk to your husband if he was still alive and find out what was he really feeling when he came back to you. I'm sure he wasn't completely happy as you're describing it. She says, you can too. Basically saying you can make it up to your husband to stay strong. And now the final response here is from a man. He says, women like you are trash and don't understand how deeply you've wounded your husband. It's a pain that's never forgotten and one that will impact his life for years to come. My first wife cheated on me after 5 years and 2 kids. I immediately divorced her, got myself together, and 8 years later, I'm remarried to a great woman while my ex's life is a disaster. I wish your husband well. So he's not wishing her well. He's wishing her husband Ray well. Now she's got a series of updates and we're going to find out how this thing all turns out. The first update is just from 3 days later. She says, I'm back on here because I need an outlet to deal with the pain I'm feeling now. I just got off a call with my kids as they were driving back to town. I finally thought after 3 days of ignoring my calls and texts, they were calling to talk to me and to let me apologize. Instead, I got berated, disrespected, and called terrible names. Words I've never heard either of my kids say. Libby was exceptionally cruel, and I think that influenced her brother. I apologized to them and said what I did was terrible and 100% my fault. I reminded them what a great mother I had been to them and what a good wife I had been to their father until now. My daughter told me that I was great, but now I was terrible. The worst. She ended the call by saying that she and her brother would be staying with their dad this weekend and that I should not expect to see them at all. This saddened me beyond belief, as Sunday is Mother's Day, and my kids and my husband always made the day so special for me. This year, I'm going to be all alone with my dog. I know a lot of what Libby and Craig are feeling is just the initial anger one feels after being betrayed, but I feel so awful about their reaction. I'm not looking for any pity here. I beg to differ with you. You are looking for pity. Just some encouragement. Thanks to those who have sent messages of support. It really has helped me get through so far. I will update again as I discovered I was pregnant at the age of 38 after trying for more than 15 years to have a third child. This news came as a shock, filling my mind with joy and terror. Joy in wanting the baby and terror in the thought it could be Leonard's. I went into panic mode, hesitant to tell Rye as I feared losing him forever if the baby wasn't his. I explored options for a prenatal DNA test, but hit dead ends. Eventually, Leonard agreed to a test, which proved he wasn't the father. I thanked the Lord for blessing me with another child. Rye, however, doubted the paternity and requested a test. The results confirmed he was the father, bringing relief. Despite the positive outcome, Rye proceeded with the divorce. We split assets and custody, with Rye having 100% custody. Our son was born, bringing our family closer. My relationship with my children improved, and we are rebuilding. Rye and I are on friendly terms, focusing on co-parenting. I am in counseling, giving him space, and slowly rebuilding our relationship. I appreciate what I have now and value my family deeply. The moral of the story includes recognizing red flags like love bombing, taking responsibility for actions, understanding the impact on relationships, and prioritizing children's well-being in divorce. Share your thoughts on how Rye handled the situation and the potential for reconciliation in the comments.